I had never thought this day would come. A religious war upon our empire. The Thymesian kingdoms all united under one banner of the Church, aside from Lochwin, who has remained as our ally. They have all decided to engage on a religious war with us. They call it their divine right, to smite us. We call it a purge, a holocaust. What we find funny, though, is how much they underestimated our empire and our martial prowess. I found myself in the midst of a burning field, just on the border with our empire and the Thymesian kingdom of Maymor. My name is Basim in your tongue, and this is my tale. Burn the fields. Let none of their crops regrow. Best thing we can do is starve them and ensure no festering disease spreads to our soldiers, I said, looking over my small troop of Khytonin soldiers. The soldier looked at me and said, "Yes, my lord, but we managed to capture several wounded of the Maymorian veterinary." "Ah, good. Perhaps we can learn more of this so-called crusade. If none of the prisoners talk, execute them, an eye for an eye. Especially as they're so eager to execute, well, all of our men who are their prisoners." The guard looked at me and, well, blinked once or twice before nodding at me and saying, "Yes, my lord, soldiers, with me." I was curious to know what these Maymorian soldiers knew. They had fought with a ferocity I had never seen before. Their bodies scattered the burning fields, and in the distance I spotted a waving, torn banner. A symbol of their decline, perhaps. I had noted, though, that only in the presence of the members of this horrid church and clergy that they started to fight with this tenacity and ferocity. It was odd, to say the least, but I had my suspicions. One of my expert healers, drenched in blood, caught my attention. She was a Khytonin, like me, but she was slightly different. Her skin tone was in the paler blue colors, and she adorned a ginger mane. I smiled at her as she gave me a half-smile in return, clearly tired from all the healing she had just done. "Halzara, I see you've been tending to our troops." Her expression didn't change, only a small sigh followed. Hello to you too, Basim. Yes, I have been. Even having to learn some of the Thymesian healing spells to deal with the amount of casualties that this damned battle of yours caused alone. 25 dead and at least 50 more wounded, but recovering. In a duty such as this, you get used to the smell of blood. I smiled at her lightly, and, well, I was always amused by her slightly carefree nature when regarding jokes and her well-being. It was always welcomed, especially in situations such as this. It left tensions. I smiled and responded with, "Sounds like a vampire's dream, then. All that blood in the air." She looked at me and laughed, and responded with, "Ha! You're probably right. Bet the naval casualties are a delight for the sharks, almost like a buffet." This made me smile. Her remarks were always welcomed. She did have a wicked sense of humor. I suppose that's what you get for being a healer. Though her expression changed to that of a more, well, serious tone. She looked at me and said, "What am I to do with the wounded Thymesians? Are they to be left to rot?" "If they're worth our time, you can heal them. But if they're not, it teaches the higher-ups a lesson not to invade our home for a deity they don't know if he truly exists or not. But keep them stable at least. I've had my men gather up some of the wounded who are able to speak, at least. I want to gather as much information as I can. Alizara looked at me and agreed. Understandable, but I heard some of their wounded, Basim. Well, some of them aren't tolerable to our kind, calling us demons, monsters, tailed creatures, all the worst insults I've ever heard, really. Not anything that would crush my soul if I heard it myself, but seeing as you are the commander of this army, I think they might be more willing to lash out against you. Though there are some who seem grateful that we are hailing them at least and not killing them on sight. All I ask, Basim, is that if they come across as helpful, they're probably fighting because they have to fight, much like the rest of us. Maybe we could arrange something different. Not an execution, or just an exile, or maybe an understanding, Basim. I paused, my brow raised at her. I was curious to see how this healer, this artificer of medicines, was giving me diplomacy advice. Though it was just advice. I nodded my head at her. Thank you, Alizara. I will take that on board. Just know I do not intend on going gentle on these warmongers. We are 5 months already into this damned crusade, and I fear for what is to come. If they are of use, like you say, and pose no real threat, then we'll see. Her expression softened, and perhaps even soured as she responded to me. I just don't want you to fall from grace, much like these Thymesians did. I nodded in agreement. That I did not wish for myself either. Although we were cut off, the soldiers I had ordered several moments ago had returned, arms wrapped around a badly beaten and wounded Maymorian soldier. The captain of the soldiers looked at me and said, "Sir, this one got lucky. Few cuts and bruises, but doesn't seem too thrilled to chaff with us. Maybe you'll have better luck." I nodded. "Send him to my personal tent. We'll have a discussion there and make sure you ready yourselves a pot of tea, for this will be a intimate discussion." I commanded my soldiers, watching as my 3 best warriors carted off this badly beaten human. I gave Alizara another look, one of reassurance. Something told me I needed this man alive. Upon entering my tent, the teapot had already been boiled and had been stewing for the past couple of minutes. A small fireplace roared to beat the chill off the Thymesian air. I looked at the soldier and smiled at him, and said, "Tea, soldier." I offered towards him, his expression sour and spiteful. "Ugh, fuck your tea," he spat. "Oh, come now, no need for such crass words and foul play. You're alive, as are some of your brothers and sisters. And those who are deceased, we've ensured that the bodies of your fallen, much like ours, have been burned to ash, so that nothing foul can taint them, whether it be disease, blight, or your wretched necromancers and liches," I said as I poured myself a small pot of our finest Kopreshi tea. I took a small cup of it, took a small swig, and sat down in my armchair, facing him with a warm smile. "My guard captain tells me your name is Leonius. You can call me Commander Basim in your tongue. I'm not here to kill you, nor am I going to send you wandering into the desert with nothing but your undergarments on. Trust me, I've heard some of your soldiers say that towards my guards. We don't do that, nor is it a torture method of ours." Leonius looked at me, and his expression soured even further, as he said, "Shut it, devil. I won't speak to your ilk." I raised a brow at him curiously and tilted my head, and said, "Won't or can't?" As I asked this, I witnessed his expression change ever so slightly. He relaxed in his chair and leant back. He looked at me as if I was correct. Which I was. Fucking Khytonin. You lot of sneaky bastards. Well, we are known for our guild of assassins, yes. Oh, by the maiden's tits. Just fucking get on with it, will ya? I know I'm clearly heading for the execution block by your filthy hands. So why don't we just skip this bit and skip towards the torture? I cleared my throat. The Maymorian Soldier was sprouting all kinds of nonsense. Therefore I corrected him. When I mention torture, we torture criminals, not soldiers like yourself, who've been ordered to create a mass genocide against those who do not share your belief in a false god. I only torture those who are deemed worthy in the eyes of the arid empire and our laws, such as those of the clergy, the ones that enacted the terrible crimes against my kind, the true zealots. And as I look into your eyes, I'd say that you don't want to have any part of the clergy in your ranks. I said this, and I watched as he became more relaxed into his chair. It seemed I was speaking the right things. He was still bound, of course. This was a war, and I needed to be careful of anything. He leaned up and spoke once more. So, you lot don't hate us. I have no tendencies to hate humans. I hate my enemies, no matter what or who they are. I hate those who would simply march into our desert homeland and start a bloodied massacre in the name of a god we never followed. I paused, realizing that anger was getting the best of me. My temperature rose as well. I looked down at my hands and I witnessed the veins pulse with angered blood. I had not felt this feeling since the massacre of the Taj. Our kings and queens answered the call of the church. Thymesia is devout. I'd say 90% of it is. To that damned church all the way in Foxton. I tell you what, though. Me and the rest of my lads, we ain't. But if I didn't march against your kind, my family would have been killed by an inquisitor. And there's your true feelings, Leonius. Feels good to get that off your chest, doesn't it? How long have you been feeling that way, Since the start of this damned crusade? Or before that? And isn't it strange how the very same people of that very highly respected church threatened both our people with death? The church, the inquisitors, the same ones who wanted to kill your family, are the same who massacred my friends in the streets of our empire. It seems like you and I have a common enemy. Oh, what's that human term of yours called? The enemy of my enemy is my friend? Leonius at this very moment looked at me with a puzzled expression. I ushered my guards to unshackle him. He reached forward towards the other mug I had filled with Kopreshi tea and took a soft sip. First he paused, probably to check if it was poison. It wasn't. He said, with a small smile, the first I had seen upon a human's face in over 10 years. Well, this is certainly a development. Why don't we share stories then? Well, this is certainly a development. Fine then, Basim. Why don't we share stories about how much we hate the church and why we're being forced to do this? Though I will warn you, most of Thymesia will never know about this chat. Only me and my soldiers will. I leant back in my chair as a small red grin split across my crimson lips. This made me smile. Splendid. See? No need for hostilities now, is there, Leonis? Look, it seems you and your soldiers don't wish to fight in this war, much as many of my soldiers don't want to do so either. However, many of the other commanders have already sailed up north and are attacking Valpen and the other kingdoms, Ibaeith, Foxton, and the walled city up above. How about I tell you the story from my perspective? How we, Khytonins, and other folk of the Empire feel about this crusade. I'll tell you, from the first day this war started.